Cantor flashes to the free throw line, straightens up, now gives back to Alec. Alec drives to the left hand, slides by Bogut, fouled and finishes. From a Warrior game in January, it is tip-off. Practice starts in 1 hour and 50 minutes. The NBA season truly begins. The NBA 5 debuts today as well. It's all coming up on today's edition of Tip-Off. Pow! Hope you're well. It's David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. Here's what we've got. We're going to debut the NBA 5. From here on out, tip-off will begin with the NBA 5, a quick 5-minute run through everything that's going on around the rest of the NBA, and then we'll delve into the show. I'll promise that we'll get into the show a little quicker than we have. It's been a little bit more kind of me hanging out, chatting with you, but we've got a bunch of content now, so we'll do that. Thanks to everyone who called the listen line, the interaction line. I got a bunch of questions in for the players. That number is 801-200-3738. Please continue to do that. Questions for Boone, questions for the players, or nominate Jazz fans of the game. I don't have one for a week from today. A week from today, we play our first game. That line is 801-200-3738. If you didn't catch it already, at utahjazz.com, there's an hour and 45-minute show. If you move in about 16 minutes, I think Steve Novak jumps in about that point, maybe a little sooner, where I just sit down with one player after the other. We talk to everybody but D. Boast and Alec Burks. That is also available on Locked On Jazz on Stitcher, as well as Locked On Jazz on iTunes. As always is the case, if you could please leave 5 stars and a comment, 4 stars in the comment, whatever you want, about the podcast. That helps us out a great deal, gets us higher profile. All right, let's hit it. The topics today, we'll hit the NBA 5, and we'll talk about Quinn Snyder. Incredible pre-coaching that he has done with this team. Some stories that I've had for a while that he's now letting me share with you. I'll talk about the FIFA exercise as well as work with Rodney Hood. If you didn't hear about it yesterday, you're going to want to hear this. Plus, we'll talk about the players' reaction, the maturity of some, and how they're not daunted by the task. It's time for the NBA 5. I don't have any production. What am I doing? All right, first thing, interesting out of Phoenix, the Morris twins, basically Lon Babby went and offered the two guys, said, hey, we got $52 million to split. The Morris twins, who all of their tattoos are the same, are completely inseparable. Paul Coro has written the article for the Arizona Republic that they often, to the point where they'll shower at the same time. They're completely connected. They're always together. When they were drafted by different teams and separated, they had major significant problems. It wasn't until Phoenix acquired one of the Morrises that was in Houston that they started to play well together. The chances of them being able to go to free agency and be able to become separate entities, that just simply was not going to work for them in any way at all. So they basically, I think, took a discount. But what was interesting is Babby went and had an allotted number for them. It was $52 million, and he went to Markieff and Marcus and said, here's what I got. I got $52 million over the next 4 years. What do you guys want to do about it? And Markieff took 32 and Marcus took 20, and that's how they divided it out. These guys didn't want to go to free agency. They really, I think, can't live apart and be successful. There's probably some real psychological elements to being identical twins to the point they are where every tattoo's the same, every action's the same, everything they've ever done together. And so Phoenix got a discount on these guys. And also, it's going to be interesting to see whether or not this deal has any impact on the rest of the league. I doubt there's going to be another extension done. Unless Golden State maxes Clay or San Antonio maxes Kawhi Leonard, I doubt Denver gets Fareed done. I doubt Chicago gets Butler done. About Brandon Knight, Vukovic, Rubio, Walker, and Jackson. I'll be surprised if any of those deals get done. But one of the things going to happen now is both those deals may be a little under market value. Markieff averaged 14 and 6 last year and got 4.32. Cantor averaged 12 and 8. Would the Jazz sign? Would Cantor take 4 and 32? And would the Jazz sign Cantor to a 4 and 32? I mean, the Cantor negotiation's a really tricky one because as a big man, his agent's going to have the prices high. But I'm not sure if I'm the Jazz, I even offer the favors deal for Ennis yet until I know what he can do. Can Ennis play with his teammates? Can he embrace that? Can he get that done? And Alec Burks at 14, 3 and 3 last year. Marcus Morris was a 10 and 4 guy last year, and he got a 4.20. Would you do 4 and 32 for Alec? Yes, I think Alec, if you can get done at 4 and 32, you get that done. So it's an interesting contract because I think they're both a little bit under market value. They were done together. I think they impact the rest of the market. And you couple that with the teams going there and the Hayward-Parsons deal, I think it gets very difficult for anybody to get any other deals done. Interesting dynamic going on in Oklahoma City where Reggie Jackson simply wants to be great. That was his quote. He wants to start because nobody's great who doesn't start, and they want to play West, so he's going to want to play next to Westbrook with Durant, Ibaka, and Perkins taking the place of Dabo Cephalosha. That's not nearly as good a defensive team. It's a different type of player. I'll be curious to see how that plays out. Jackson's another one who's up for an extension. Is he want to be great to the point where he's willing to leave if Oklahoma City won't give him the money? Are they going to pay Jackson instead of Harden? That would be a terrible decision over the long term by Oklahoma City. Be curious to see how that plays. Interesting story came out of Chicago Media Day. Kobe Bryant offered Pau Gasol for the two of them to retire together, and Gasol declined, saying it was a difficult decision to decide to go to Chicago. I mean, Kobe Bryant, the difference between Kobe Bryant and his career and LeBron James and his career are going to simply be the amount of players they're able to recruit, or in this case, even keep, that someone actually stayed, that actually wanted to play with them. It's incredible how Kobe's complete inability to keep any players on his team. And Dean Oliver, the guru of NBA stats, who wrote the first ever kind of analytical book on the NBA, Basketball on Paper, has been hired by the Sacramento Kings, and their continual rise up with their stats world. They are becoming about as analytical as Houston on the highest end of things with their owner and the way he views things. And so Dean Oliver leaves ESPN. He was head of all of ESPN's statistical work. And be very curious. It's a big blow to ESPN. I'll be curious to see who takes that gig. And the other note on that one the other day is that Portland had a stats guy that was as integrated into the team as anyone. He actually sat in coaches' meetings, met with part of their shoot-arounds, worked with that guy, sitting in with them, giving them a stats breakdown of what he thought was important about this opponent. He was just hired as a VP for as much as rumors were as $250,000 a year to be the new analytics guy in Philadelphia, so that rise is continuing. That is the first ever edition of the NBA 5. Let's dig into the Utah Jazz. Okay, don't worry, I won't do that every single time, but there is room for production there if we decide to make this thing sound really official. I don't really want to do that, but we'll see. And it's difficult, frankly. I'm not in a studio, and I'm not on the road. So Quinn Snyder, I finally got to tell a few Quinn Snyder stories yesterday that I think give you guys an understanding of the level of detail that this guy is going to, how incredible his mind is, how hard he's been driving his staff, how incredible Antonio Lang, Brad Jones, Alex Jensen, Johnny Bryant, Mike Wells, and the rest of the staff, it's a big staff now, have really been. But one of the most interesting to me is Quinn Snyder made all of his coaches take a FIBA team during the World Cup and prepare a video scouting report and shoot-around that they would give to the players as though that was their opponent. So not an NBA team, but a FIFA team. And he made them basically go, and whether it was, let's say it was Spain, they had to then present Spain video the same way they will before shoot-around, and then walk the coaches through a walkthrough the same way they would, so that Quinn could go to that level of detail with his coaches about what he wants as a head coach, what he wants to have from these guys as a scouting report, how he wants to do a video, how he wants the shoot-around presented, what the key points, how many pieces of information. He said it was to the point they got to, as he says, to the what was capitalized and what was bold-faced level with this type of scouting report. But it's an incredible exercise, and it's really brilliant. Because if you think about it, you don't want to have these coaches not knowing what they are trying to get done and suddenly be a week into the season and having 3 or 4 scouting reports and Quinn having to interrupt the shoot-around to be able to say, hey, wait, actually, let's do it this way, and kind of undermining his coaching staff. So to me, it's a sign of just the level of detail, the brilliance, the well-thought-out process that Quinn is going through. They also had a major coaching retreat, which we didn't get into yesterday, and I haven't seen it yet, but evidently Quinn prepared a book that was maybe hundreds of pages for the coaches about what they believe in, what they do. Quinn uses a different terminology than a lot of other things. Some of it I think I've said on this I'm going to use in the broadcast so that you are a part of it, but attack at the 45. It's the 45-degree angle coming off the wing, push up the right side. Alec Burks attacks at the 45. And I think, it breaks the paint. That's what they want to do. They want to break the paint and then lays it. That's important to Quinn and how they're going to play, and the coaches and the terminology and the new structure. They call their defenses either channel or slide. It's not over or under or red or white or whatever different teams uses. And so Quinn has been really putting the coaches through a 2-month training camp of rigorous, incredible work and having them do all that. And some of that became through in our interview. I hope at part 2 of my podcast, at the 30-minute mark, I believe, is when the Quinn Snyder interview is. It's worth hearing. Play with a purpose, play with a pass, and play with pace. The most interesting thing about playing with pace is I think we've lost what he means by playing with pace. Playing by pace to him is not necessarily just getting quick shots and playing 7 seconds or less. It's everything you're doing in the half court is being done with pace. He shared, and Rodney Hood shared a story, Rodney Hood on my shirt right here, that took place in one of the open gyms where Rodney ball faked, and he said, hey, I don't not want the ball fake, but let's work with what you're going to do. You're either going to catch it, you're going to dribble it, or you're going to pass it, and you're going to do it immediately. And to him, that's playing with pace. We're not going to catch, pump fake, do the dribble, see what's going on. That slows everything down and stops it. Now you have no pace in the possession. You're going to play the possession, moving the ball, moving men, playing with a pace inside the half court. So if you get an advantage, you never do anything to slow it back down, to take away that advantage. And then you've got to be spaced. Playing with purpose is playing with space and playing in the right spots on the floor and not screwing up. And early on, some of this can be a mess because guys aren't going to be sure where to go, and they're going to go to the wrong spots, they're going to misread, or guys are going to read things differently, and there's going to be disastrous days. But as it comes together, you're going to be able to see. I think it'll be very exciting for the fans to be able to see what's taking place and what the concepts are offensively for this team and how they're going to be able to get this done. When you look at that, that's what he means by playing with a purpose. Purpose is spacing. Purpose is in the right spots, knowing where to go. Playing with pace is inside of a possession, and play with pass is the way to keep that pace going. That's the crux of our conversation, but it's better if you hear Quinn talk about it if you get a chance. The other one in that whole Rodney Hood thing was some of the stuff he talked with Rodney about was, hey, know what you're going to do before you get the ball. So if you've got an open look, get your feet set and your body set to shoot it. That's playing with pace. Or they're closed on you. Well, then start your step for your drive even before you catch. Go and then catch. Not catch and then go, but go and then catch. And you suddenly see how you're able to get an edge, play with a little pace. These are the level of – it's incredible to be around every day to see this level of detail Quinn's coming. And it's really different. Ty had his way of doing things, and I don't know what's going to lead to wins or not, but this is certainly a different type of coaching than what we've seen from Jerry, from Ty. It's very hands-on, very different. Even the stories that Ennis Cantor told yesterday about Quinn, out to Chicago, putting confidence in him, really playing the psychological game with Ennis. I think that's a different approach. I think Ty was much more hands-on, meeting with guys, talking with them. They really, they played for Ty because they knew he believed in them and had their best interest in mind. With Quinn, they're hoping that you can have that and have this belief that he's somehow putting you in the right spots all the time to have you have success. So we'll see how that all plays out. It's so dramatically different in what we're doing. It was interesting to interviews that I did. The things that jumped out to me, I thought Ennis and Gordon both seemed very excited. Gordon talking, I was quite honest with Gordon. I've said this about Gordon, that Gordon's a doubter. I don't know if the phrase blamer is probably right, but I think he's kind of in that mode. His instinct is he just doesn't believe. He's just not a trusting guy. That's not his natural instinct. He wants to be proven that things are right. I'm not sure I'm not sure I think there's anything wrong with that, frankly. I'm probably very similar to that in some sense. So don't take that as I'm insulting him. That's just who he is. And I said that to Gordon. I said, Gordon, your instinct is that if I tell you the sky is blue, you're going to say, prove it to me. How do you deal with a new head coach? And, you know, he kind of openly admitted that's true, and that they have then in turn had a lot of conversations and worked at a lot of things. And, Gordon's got a little OCD to him, and it sounded as though, he said it. I got a little OCD, and Quinn's got a little bit, and it might work for us. So Gordon sounded very excited about that relationship, about working in that system and playing this way and playing with that pace and doing these things and having the pass be rewarded. I think is important to Gordon because it's what he does very, very well. Ennis seemed like he'd been unleashed. And I don't think there's any question. We all saw Ty was on Ennis at a high level, rightfully so most of the time. Will Quinn be able to kind of keep Ennis unleashed and have Ennis not, feel as though someone's, down? Ennis just wants to be loved. That's who he is. And if Quinn give him that attention and he believes he's being loved, and then he's able to play through that and with that confidence and then still be coached, I think he can be all right. But it's a delicate balance there with Ennis. Ennis probably is not one you can berate and beat down because I think he gets beaten down pretty easily. It's a very interesting personality. It's where this whole extension thing gets very interesting for Ennis because I think Ennis actually is one who probably would be better off just taking an extension, getting it done. He's young enough that by the end of the 4 years, he'll make so much money on the back end if he has success. It doesn't matter. That he probably is better off just taking a 432, and that's a crap load of money anyway. But fair could be half of his value if he has a good year. So, but he's probably better off taking it. The issue with Ennis is Ennis has really got to. I think the bigger one for Ennis is got to show he can be a part of a team. He's never really kind of got that relationship with teammates to be part of a collective unit and playing together, and I think that's a big one. I thought the maturity of Alec, Burks, and Derrick Favors jumped out to me. Alec is a very quiet. He's not a effusive person, but I thought he was much more kind of in the interactions. I've had a very nice time with him in the last month. I feel as though he's kind of a little older, a little more mature, a little more together. He's still who he is. He's not going to change, but he just there seems to be less nervousness. There always felt like when you were talking to him before that there was almost this kind of, oh, what are you doing? And I didn't feel that. I felt him. And then Derrick was just terrific. I've had just a wonderful time with Derrick and all the production time and behind the scenes stuff over the last. I shared a little bit of it in the interview where I did Derrick very early in my production interviews, and I have all these crazy creative ideas. I don't know if they're going to work, and so Derrick was nice enough to let me try a bunch of production pieces with him this year, 3 of which just didn't work at all. They were bombs, but I felt fortunate enough. Derrick's such a nice guy that he would not judge me for it, that he would be like, okay, well, you tried something no differently. I tried a running hook across the middle. It didn't work. And so he's incredibly valuable. We're going to do a bunch of neat stuff on the broadcast so you get to know these players better. And those will be released here shortly. I don't know if I'm going to bring them out this week. I think I may start next week, or I may wait. I don't know. I got to figure out. I've actually talking to some people I think know more than I do about when to start releasing all the get-to-know interviews to get the largest bang for the buck and best for the organization and best for the fans. But anyway, so that, just with Derrick, he's just such a different guy. And I thought the thing about Derrick is he's just not daunted by the task of being the leader of this team at all. Gordon, I think, feels he's really got to evolve and do some things and understands it. Derrick's not daunted by it at all. So those are my thoughts. Thanks so much for tuning in. Let's go take the questions and see if there are any today. I haven't pulled it up yet. There seem to be quite a few. Let's go to Scott Petty. When in the preseason will Quinn stop seeing who might make the roster and start showing us the real rotation will be? I have no idea, but I think Quinn might know that already, frankly. I will be stunned, I guess, if this is not the. Let's run through it. Alec. Starting lineup: Trey, Alec, Gordon, Ennis, and Derrick. Right? Dante, Rodney, Rudy, Trevor, and Novak are your 10 primary players. Do you need another guard with Trey Burke, Dante Exum, and Alec Burks? Or is Gordon enough and Rodney enough? So you've got 5 bigs: Derrick, Ennis, Rudy, Trevor, and Novak. By minutes, it's Derrick, Trevor, Ennis, Rudy is my guess for a little while. Novak. That's my guess. Trevor does a lot of things, and Ennis is going to have to really plug in. I think he'll get there, but he's going to have to really plug in. Your 5 wings are Alec, Dante, Trey, Gordon, and Rodney. Do you need more than 5 wings? I don't think so. I think that's it. That's 10 guys. Now, who are the next 5 guys that make the roster? Jeremy Evans makes the roster. Ian Clark makes the roster. That's 12. Who am I forgetting? Trey Murray, Carrick, Felix battle for roster spots. That's 13, 14. Brock Modem, 15. You're 6 big. If you go with that, I'm sure I'm forgetting someone. Jack Cooley's playing well. Do you boast? Maybe we go feel, it depends a little bit on health. See how Dante gets through this opening stretch. See if he's beaten up at all from all the basketball he's played, having not played a lot. We'll see. Let's go to Wade Godfrey. Which player do you think will take a breakout year? Which will digress? Can't imagine many guys digressing at this stage in their career. It'd be really pretty bad. Somebody digresses, it would. Somebody digresses, I guess it would be Trey, and he's out of the league in like 2 years. That's the scenario. I just don't see that though. The breakout, on one sense, I think is Rudy, just because he's got the most room to make the next step, which is going from being a 12-minute night player to a 24-minute night player. Nobody beginning of training camp do you think is going to digress, right? That's the whole point of the beginning of training camp. Who else could break it? I guess Ennis could show Ennis has not shown he can start in the NBA. That would be a huge, huge step. That's an enormous step, proving that you're an NBA starter. Let's go to Jonathan Ericsson. How big an impact do you think Gordon's belief in Quinn will have on his play? Enormous. 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 If Gordon believes in what's going on around him, then he's back to Butler and Brad Stevens. And he's never, he loved Brad Stevens at such a high level of detail. And, Gordon wants a coach. Gordon's got a bunch of aspects to his personality. One thing I thought Gordon said that was very interesting to me yesterday was, and if you screw up, he'll take you out, correct you, and put you back in. Gordon wants that for him and his teammates. Gordon doesn't want to play where there's one thing being talked about and another thing being allowed to be done by certain teammates. He doesn't understand that. Okay? Probably rightfully so, but he really doesn't understand that at all. If you're going to have a method in which you're doing things and then you have guys that aren't held to that standard, that's beyond. Gordon can't handle that. So if everybody has to play defense but Al Jefferson doesn't, that don't work for him. So I think that's going to be the key on how Gordon is reached by Quinn. And then if that's going on, then Gordon raises to a higher standard. Is probably a pretty decent leader. Ask your best fans. We should get a sneak preview of your Ennis for 3 call. We won't tell, promise. Well, I did it on the interview with Ennis. I got to write it down. I can't remember things that way. What was it? Luch? Something Luch was Pointer's Luch? I'll have to go back and listen to it and have him write it out for me. But that's when Ennis hits a 3, we're going Turkish. Right side, canter, behind the arc. Luch, whatever it is. I don't know. We're going. Clint, nice job over at Purple and Blue. Tyson did a really great job with that site for a long time. I don't know what the shakeup there is, but Clint's taken over and is doing a nice job. Jonathan Ericsson, trying to find minutes for everyone seems like it'll be a challenge. Trey, Burke, Dante Exum, Gordon Hayward, Alec, Burks, Rodney Hood. Derrick, Felix, and Dante Jones, how do you split those minutes? You stop after 5, and then it's not a problem to split those minutes at all. That's how you do it. Trey Burke, Dante Exum, Gordon Hayward, Alec, Burks, and Rodney Hood. And then there are going to be nights where Dante's not going to play a lot, and there's going to be nights where Rodney doesn't play a lot. Derrick Felix has got a long way to go to be Bruce Bowen. Toure Murray's got a long way to go to be an NBA regular rotation player. These guys they really have to make some huge strides to be NBA regular rotation players. All right, I think that wraps up the show today. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Hope you're great. Have a good one. Thanks for tuning in. A week from today is our first preseason game. Let me see if while I've been on the air we have sent any release out about the scrimmage. I cannot announce it until I obviously know when it is because I have to work it, and they're good enough to let me know these things. But it's not. There's some things that they had to get lined up to make sure when it's intended to be. We have not announced it yet. The only clue I will give you is it is usually prior to the first game of the season. So that doesn't leave us a lot of days left. Jazz have 2-a-days Monday, Tuesday. Excuse me, two-a-days today. I'll have to look at my schedule. I don't know, actually. 2-a-days for the Jazz. Here, I have it, just so you know what the Jazz schedule is. Tuesday, today, 2-a-days. Wednesday, 2-a-days. Thursday, no afternoon practice. Friday, no afternoon practice. Only two-a-days. For them as of right now. We'll see if that changes. All right, that is the show. Hope you're well. Thanks very much for tuning in. If you do get a second to leave a positive review on iTunes, Stitcher, or whatever app you use to listen to this, I would greatly appreciate it as well. Follow me on Facebook at Locked On Sports or David Locke, or Google Plus. Locked On Sports Community is a good way to get your Jazz news. Thanks, guys.